In this video, I will analyze the body language of the cast of the upcoming movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, and actors including Margot Robbie, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Brad Pitt. The comedy drama is a tribute to the golden age of Hollywood in the late 60s, and the story includes the murder of Sharon Tate and others by members of the Manson family. The interview is conducted by NBC's Harry Smith and broadcasted on The Today Show. Let's get started.
Really good to see you all. I'm going to start with you. Sure. Did you know who Sharon Tate?
Okay, so here we see the four interviewers, and the interviewer, he starts with Margot Robbie. Also, we can't see so much here from this angle, but big fake smile, eyes wide open, so that's an expression of fear. So at this moment, she is a little bit nervous.
Was before the script came your way?
I did actually. Yes, no, I did, but
Here she has difficulties answering. She looks down, touches her nose. In fact, with this question, she's caught off guard.
Whenever I heard her name, I really only thought about her death. I didn't ever look into or...
Okay, so she doesn't know much about her, or she didn't know much about her.
I was never really exposed to the parts of her life when she was alive, and that was kind of a beautiful part about taking on this role.
Right, because that's what kind of everybody knows about.
Yeah.
And I wonder
So now he makes a little bit fun of her.
if you thought, well, Quentin Tarantino wants me to play Sharon Tate, and I'm not sure if...
So she has an asymmetric smile, so she looks down on him.
I'm interested in the final scene.
Yeah, no, and people will be surprised, but it is so hard not to ruin the movie talking about it. But
We are.
Yeah.
She's trying to get out of the situation where she doesn't have much to say. She's deflecting.
Of Sharon alive in such a beautiful way,
Right.
Knowing that they had spent time together and she'd given her blessing.
Did you
Definitely made me
wear
feel
some of
comfortable.
her jewelry?
I did, yeah, it did, which was again an amazing opportunity.
So here you see the tension in her face. So she thinks it's weird in some way to wear the jewelry of the dead Sharon Tate.
An opportunity that if it wasn't for Deborah wouldn't have been possible. It was kind of sometimes very sad to be that closely connected with real life Sharon. It kind of hit you at moments, and suddenly the tragedy of it all would kind of hit you, and you would be
So she's showing actually pain. In some way it might be painful to talk about this.
tremendously sad, and other times she just made me feel so happy.
Here's the chin up, so Harry seems to feel superior at this moment, and also the mouth corner goes up. He cut her into a little bit of a caper, talking about something quite sensitive, and she's struggling.
Because I know that she was happy and wonderful.
Here as well.
The way people speak about her, for the most part, she was an absolute joy. But yes, there were moments where it was very sad.
Can you give me the elevator pitch? Because this movie is about so many different
He now switched all of a sudden from Margot to Quentin,
things.
I don't know if I can do the elevator.
and now he's caught off guard. And what you see, which is quite interesting, there's a mirroring in the body language of Quentin by Brad. So he first of all, they have the leg similar, left leg over the right knee, and Brad started to touch the side of his face when Quentin does it and having difficulty answering. Anyways, it's an interesting setup. Normally the person furthest away from the interviewer is in a disadvantaged spot. This is not so obvious here because they are all facing the interviewer, but in some of the other interviews I saw the seating order is the same, and Brad is really the furthest away from the interviewer. So why is that? He's the most senior experienced of the actors sitting here, so he can deal with this the best. He's the most easygoing in the scenario. Margot feels overall quite uncomfortable. She's fiddling around with her hands. And Leonardo is sitting more at the edge of the seat. He's also not as comfortable as Brad. So he has difficulty answering, and then Brad is studying him very carefully, and then now he's starting to laugh and make a joke to ease the tension, help essentially his director out of this little caper.
About anything.
Yeah, about anything.
See again, both look up, all of them are laughing, and the situation is easier now, and Quentin has more time to answer the question. So Brad is helping out.
But one
thing that's kind of interesting to me is
So now he's finding a way to answer the question.
I knew I wanted to make a movie at some point in my life about Hollywood, behind the scenes thing.
So that's really an interesting character. Well, here a few superficial things. He has dyed hair. You see the gray hair growing out. With his voice, he would make a good Red John serial killer. So he has this weird voice and he's stuttering as well. This is interesting. So this might indicate issues in his early development when he was a little child. Maybe some traumatic experiences. This is sort of hampered with the development. There seems to be some ugliness and twistedness coming out. This is very shrewd mouth going down in the mouth corners. There's some underlying negativity, which he tries to mask with his abrupt behavior and his jokes.
It's an interesting genre of movies, I think. And I'd worked on these characters, both the characters of...
So the early traumatic experiences are also indicated in the ear, so these are often slightly deformed when these things happen during an early development. And the earlobes might indicate also potential heart problems.
Rick and Cliff and Sharon for a long time of kind of who they were. And them was creating them and figuring out their careers, and then with Sharon was like learning.
It's an interesting high voice, yeah?
And at different points, I'd had more melodramatic ideas. A real more like an Elmer Leonard-y kind of story that would involve all these characters, which is probably pretty good, frankly. But after I found...
So he misspeaks quite a lot. He has these breaks and then he's bombarding the listener with information. So it's very irregular. This is again this indicator that there's some issue in the early development of his life. This is also indicated by his movies, which are quite cartoonish. And so he's a little bit stuck in his early childhood. We are all motivated by things. He has his motivation.
Figured out that after I figured out who these guys were, I don't think I need a story. I think they're interesting enough characters. Let me just do a day in the life.
So here she's fiddling around with her fingers, so she's overall quite uncomfortable. And you also sometimes see Leonardo to space out, also in the other interviews. There's a little bit of sadness in his face, and he seems to be, with his thoughts, easily going in different directions.
Just follow the three of them over the course of a couple of days. Now I'm going to go to the day of the murder, and then that's our dramatic arc, and we're always heading towards there. And
everybody who's watching the movie knows this too.
And knows that that's where it's headed. That you never want to tip. You never want that clock to go off.
Right. You know what? The elevator door just opened. But keep going.
Well, no, actually, I was done. I'm done with my elevator pitch, because to me the idea was, once I got these characters, was to just hang out with them and live their life rather than put them through these melodramatic paces of a film.
Here we see again the small deformations of the ear and this little fold here.
Right. You play a cowboy actor from TV. Are you old enough to have watched reruns of that sort of stuff?
No, I had not been exposed, for example.
Also here, he caught Leonardo off guard. He has to admit that he is not familiar with these old TV shows.
Dead or Alive or The Rifleman or a lot of these 50s, 60s TV shows that, Quentin had grown up with. So to me it was almost...
His face is also very interesting. So he has these relatively small eyes, so quite private. The wide forehead indicates that he might be rather headstrong, maybe rebellious. And then the jaws are also very wide. He seems to have quite a high level of energy or stamina. He's in the show business for the long run, and he mentions this later as well when he compares a successful actor with a long distance runner. So it's about endurance. And he's emitting this very nicely. These are positive features.
Almost an exposure to not only that type of television, but these type of B films that I had never grown up with. And an era in time that was a great transition, not only culturally, but in cinema, where the guys with the pompadours were sort of fading out and the hippie revolution was coming into play. But,
Margot looks down and fiddles particularly strongly now with her fingers. So it doesn't look like she likes him very much. Also, they have a history because they already played together in The Wolf of Wall Street, which is a 2014 movie, and that got her famous. But somehow she doesn't seem to like him very much.
Quentin was saying his approach to this was so interesting because
And now she even tries to grab the water glass, but she said in the end she doesn't do it. So she's trying to dissipate some stress here by doing all kinds of stuff.
Guys, these outsiders sort of looking in at a changing world. They're these voyeurs. They're almost like a, Nick Carraway or something like that.
So he speaks quite eloquently. That doesn't really speak to Margot his way.
It's they're working class guys trying to survive in a changing industry. But so much of what Quentin does is always going to be so incredibly unique because he kind of...
So she looks down. She doesn't look down when Brad and Quentin speak. That's something different between the two here.
The fairy tale aspect of his imagination of what Hollywood was at that time, that is almost forensic, but also created.
Forensic is a good word. He also has high standards, so the eyebrows are very high. That's a signature of that. He's probably quite hard on himself. He might even appear unhuman in some respects. He might be not even an ideal person to work with on a movie set. Who knows?
To Los Angeles in this time period.
Forensic is good because first.
So now he says something, forensic is good, and she's nodding. So he says something, she's not responding at all or looking down. Brad speaks, and he's quite inarticulate, and I will come back to it, and she nods. She's responding very strongly.
Well, our friend here is a purist. Nothing is going to be done CG.
She's smiling at him even and nodding. And now she's turning her head, which is almost like an admiring gesture, a little bit submissive.
Real. And they recreated...
And she's smiling.
Hollywood Boulevard is 1969. It was...
Unlike Leonardo, he has a much thinner face with the temples indented. This is more a signature of an addictive personality. That could, of course, be an addictive lifestyle, going after goals relentlessly, and also being sort of trapped in his pursuits. He sometimes loses track of what he's saying, and that might even be indicators of early signs of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So there might be something coming.
It was the detail was incredible. Not only is the radio, some obscure radio station advertised on the bus stop that we probably won't see as we're flying by. In the store behind it is a little pamphlet of a comic book or advertising something of that era, and that is the depths of his detail. And when we started it, he came to us and basically...
So he's also praising Quentin in this interview. He's saying all these nice things about him, while Margot and Leonardo don't do that so much. So he's really more a team player. So he's very agreeable. So that's potentially a sign of someone coming from a divorced family, where there's a lot of tension between the parents, and he tries to bridge these things.
To really recreate the city that I live in to this day, but to the way it was when I was 6 or 7, it's kind of amazing. It was very exciting, and to really do it with plaster and brick, and not just we'll do that later. Yeah. But also
he's gesturing very wildly here.
I remember those radio stations, and to me those radio stations and those radio commercials and those DJs,
he can be quite dominating in his appearance.
Greek chorus,
yeah. Almost.
But he's a director.
You have these guys in mind when you wrote it?
Well, yes, but
and a few others.
You can't. Well,
struggling a little bit, and Brad is again helping him.
But here's the thing, though: it's like you can't. The answer is yes, I did, but I.
And he's again supporting him with his laughing and showing him moral support.
I couldn't be arrogant enough to think I'm going to get them. All right.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things would have to work out for that to happen.
Who said yes first?
What?
Who said yes first?
Both at the end have a good time, and Leonardo and Margot fiddle around with their clothes. So they are the least comfortable here.
The Rick character first.
Yeah,
And this is a sign of impatience, the side on the hand of his hips, even slightly annoyed.
Well, Leo said yes first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cliff depended on...
Yeah, well, that was the thing.
So he's not smiling at all. She's not smiling at all.
Stunt double and his actor team.
She's also impatient.
No, but we did start on the same television show.
Growing pains.
89, 90. No,
these guys are actually frustratingly blasé about stuff like this. Brad was like on 21 Jump Street once. Like, wait, did you do a scene with Depp? And he goes, I don't remember. You don't remember?
She has this slightly twisted view of the world. He sees these subtleties other people don't see. So again, there's something in his early development which brought out these views of the world and the motivation he has, the strong motivation.
Was there any trepidation whatsoever when, oh, him, you, these, you guys are really famous and well regarded, but had never worked together before? Was there any trepidation?
Hell no, man. You know that you don't have to carry, the whole thing. You got.
So he's a team player.
People who are the best of the best and are going to.
And she's again admiring Brad.
Help carry that load. It's actually a relief, and so much was automatic for us. Just having experienced many of the same things. This story itself that Quentin has created. It just.
So he's losing track sometimes of his speech. He doesn't know where he's going.
I did an interview with Matt Damon years ago, and there was a moment after he was hot, when his phone literally stopped ringing. It was before Born. And he
has an asymmetric smile, is looking down on Harry. I don't know, maybe due to Harry's views on famous people and...
They ebb and flow. There's good times and there's bad times. And hopefully you could just be in the race as a long-distance runner.
So he has a long-distance runner, so it's endurance, which he emits very strongly.
Yeah, precisely that. And I think we're all aware there's a shelf life on this, but, and certainly feel what Leo's describing, the ebbs and flows. Some are going to work, some aren't. You still put everything into each one of them. And I think when...
So you can see his thin face. And a little bit his nervous tics. That's an indication potentially of even illness.
The older I get, it's more important...
So now he's losing somewhat track of his speech.
You commit a lot to a film. You're committing months and months of your time. It's long days, and it's really important to me the people I spend my time with. And
he's losing track.
The artists that I respect, and so I don't know what went wrong on this one, but.
So he's cracking a joke to get out of the situation.
Would you do it again?
So cheap.
Would you want to work together again?
And again, she is strongly responding to Brad.
And I want to do a Christmas album.
Again.
Together. I have high hopes for.
She likes Brad's lightheartedness much more than Leonardo's togetherness and strictness.
Well, I just think it's amazing. I mean, he said that from the...
So he's again helping Quentin. So he's always supporting his wingman here on the other side.
Beginning, and he puts...
praising him.
Everything into...
And he's looking down and annoyed. So he doesn't like that. So he's a little bit excluded. Also, he's sitting in the center of the group.
It is so well thought out. And when he says...
And he's spacing out.
The 10th film, I mean, I can't wait to see what that would be. Understands that there is a... I guess it's back to a shelf life, but...
So he's losing his track again?
Transition too. So when he's...
In my next life, who should I come back as? You? Or you?
What a weird question. He's obsessed with celebrities and these famous actors.
This idea of a couple days in the life and trying to also create a character, but a character...
So now he has a good moment. He's very focused, a lot of expression. He uses his hands as illustrators. Very strong moment, very focused. It draws the viewer in.
Pretending to be another character and struggling with trying to act.
Very open facial expression. Very open.
Very complex to wrap my head around. In a lot of our conversations, initially it was like, okay, but what's underneath all of that? Might want to disappear from the face of the earth at any moment. And so...
It's a good performance here.
I just come from a place of... This isn't real, guys. This is a movie. We can do anything in
here. He has an interesting worldview.
Just make believe, then we can take it for what it is. It's as make believe, and it is just fantasy. And you get to have these
against this very shrewd character somehow he has.
And be appalled, and then. As effed up as
and he's using a lot of hands now, so he's also getting quite excited.
Be surprised
This is a topic he feels very strongly about.
But as far as I'm concerned, that's a great time at the movies. To have those kind of conflicted emotions as opposed to just having images glaze over you, that's a great time at the movies.
I remember
Again, Brad is responding.
putting it down and going, "Can you do that? Can you kill Hitler? Can you? Is that?"
Attention must be paid. And
Across these desks, promises were made.
The performance.
Whenever I do Willy Loman, it's always the Justin Hoffman version.
Rick missed that boat, and did he miss it forever? And does that torture him, or is he going to be
Again, a good moment for him.
realize, like,
Good synchrony with his face, the eyes, the eyebrows, the hands.
every day like out of prison is a it's a good day for Cliff?
Is like one of the zeitgeisty movies that actually Rick
Zeitgeisty, so he uses a lot of these German words.
is the John Cassavetes role in Rosemary's Baby. That actually would have been a good role for him. As
Fake
about
smile.
a struggling actor who wants success. And so if he had just moved,
She's not
if he had just
following.
moved to the neighborhood 1 year earlier.
Never thought about that.
She didn't understand
you
it.
guys are great to take so much time to hang out and talk about horror.
And he's now switching again.
No, it's my pleasure.
All of a sudden he's ending it. Very fast ending. So in summary, Quentin is a very shrewd character, a little bit twisted, very likely comes from early experiences in his life, potentially even traumatic. Margot and Leonardo were the least comfortable in this setting. Also, they were centered in the middle. Leonardo warmed up towards the end, or the second half. And Brad Pitt, also on the outside, was well placed to integrate the whole thing. And he in particular was a wingman of Quentin, supporting him, helping him out when he had trouble answering the questions. Thank you very much for listening, and talk to you next time. Bye.